So knowing your people, as a leader, I've heard it constantly throughout my years is you got to get to know your people. Something that the Army has a hard time with, especially with their young junior leaders, is you got to get to know their people. But there are levels to leadership. There's levels to the game that you got to understand. Because when you become a leader, you can't be these soldiers' friends anymore. You can't be their service members' friends anymore. Inside of the workplace, you have employees and you have leaders, managers, and supervisors. Things get twisted, the waters get muddied when you have so-called fraternization that are going on. There's always an employer-employee relationship that is going on inside of the workplace. A problem that you don't want to have is not knowing who you are as a leader, because that's your responsibility, is to seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions before you even get to know your people. Have you conducted an intrapersonal SWOT analysis on the self? Do you know you? I know who I am. It took some time for me to get to know who I was. I've always been an individual who practiced self-referent thought and metacognition, always thinking about my thinking, got thoughts running through my head. My brain never shuts down. The other night, my wife was like, you need to power down. I said, switch broke, took it out. It doesn't work anymore. That's just who I am. Everybody else is going to be different. I got that. But when we talk about understanding the philosophy, the science, and the art behind leadership, as a leader, even before you get to know someone, you have to know yourself first. And that is so important when we talk about building trust. Because if you know yourself, you know the behaviors that you're going to exhibit and the consequences they are going to produce. And everybody else is going to know you. So when we go into like a concept of self-awareness, like the Johari window, you've got the arena, you've got the blind spot, you've got the self, and you've got the unknown. Are you operating in your blind spot? It's like driving down the road. You don't even put your turn signal on, but you don't think anybody's on your left hand side, and you go ahead and start going to get into the left hand lane, and you're going to sideswipe a car. Who hasn't done that before? I have. That's where I sit back and I think about my thinking. Who am I? What are my strengths and my weaknesses? Being technically and tactically proficient. Do I understand the no? This is what we talk about the be. Am I being a leader? Because it is a responsibility. It's a principal responsibility to know who your people are. And we're not just taught to reducing this concept down to knowing the kids' names or knowing the kids' birthdays. We're talking about actually getting to know an individual, because there's a clear difference between being warm to an individual, being friendly, and knowing that individual. We're talking about getting in and understanding what makes them tick. This is the organizational aspect of IO psychology, that organizational behavior aspect. Understanding what makes your employees tick, what makes you tick inside of the organization. What are the conditions to where you're going to produce your best work? What are the conditions where you're going to produce your worst work because the stress has become too much? You simply can't handle the workload. You can't handle the stress. Or maybe you have something external outside of the workplace that's affecting you. You're human. It happens. My wife has a very stressful job. My family has a very stressful job. And when we come home and we come together, I know who they are. I know who I am. They always say, if you want your workplace to get better, you get better first. It's simple. You have to know who you are and you have to get better, because your people are sitting there and they're watching you. People learn directly and vicariously. They're watching every single thing that you do. It is so important to understand that environment, and you got to understand, is somebody limited by that environment? And we're talking about the environmental conditions inside of the office. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? What is it? Do you work in an open area where everybody's watching everybody? a lot of places like that so they can exchange information and they can share and they can watch and see how everybody's doing. But then you have to remember some individuals just aren't able to focus like that. What are people's strengths and weaknesses? In order for them to become vulnerable to you, they have to trust you. But if you're at work as a leader and you're exhibiting inconsistent behaviors, like a sinus rhythm that are constantly going up and down, they're not going to talk to you. And you're not going to build any trust due to the behaviors that you model on a daily basis, because it is your responsibility as a leader to understand what drives your behaviors. We're talking about from an emotional awareness aspect, a mood orientation aspect, a cognitive regulation aspect, and a behavioral control aspect. Because then you can understand what are my KSAOs, what are my knowledge, skills, and abilities and other competencies that I need to influence behavior inside of the workplace. Because real leaders influence and develop others to become leaders. What type of legacy are you leaving behind? So, inside of the workplace, when you look at your team, are you making assumptions on your people because you don't know who you are? Get to know them. They're other human beings. Treat them as such. Treat them with the dignity, fairness, and respect. That doesn't mean that you have to be on a friendship relationship, that you're going over and partying with them or anything like that, because you're still at work and you still have a job to do. You have a mission that you have to accomplish. But that does mean that you can treat them with dignity and fairness inside of the workplace. So tell me, what assumptions are you making inside of the workplace about the people who you're working with? You might be a little bit surprised when you let down your guard, you become vulnerable. And I'm not talking about where you're expressing your most intimate experiences and things like that. Build that teamwork and that trust inside of the workplace. Tell me in the comments below. Follow along on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday is always about the know. Wednesday is always about the be. Who am I? That identity as a leader. And Friday is always about the do execution. I look forward to seeing you.